Coming up on Mountain News this morning, the state is working to evaluate the damage left behind by Tuesday's storms. And in eastern Kentucky, the Red Cross is sharing its mission to help recruit new Commonwealth members.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Olivia Calfee. We are coming up on 5:30 on Thursday, April 4th. Now let's send it over to meteorologist Tim Drawbridge for a look at your forecast this morning.
Yeah, April 4th, not April 1st, and this is not an April Fool's forecast, not only for today, but tomorrow too. Can we go back to what we had a couple of weeks ago, that 70, 80 degree weather? I don't know. Mid-30s outside our door. It's a wet start, but some of us turning a little bit wet. Not only wet, but white. Talk about the ugliness of snow, sleet, and rain shower activity as we head through your Thursday. Chilly running into the weekend. We get brighter Saturday, but still running below average, and things looking still bright, meaning lack of cloud cover for the eclipse on Monday, but that's going to be a close call. Temperature-wise, mid and upper 30s, lower 40s. The pinpoint Doppler radar showing our action right now. We put on the pretty colors for the interpretation of rain, snow, and sleet. And obviously you can see we're starting to transition again. Upper level feature driving the cold air our way, which means again for today, if we see any breaks of sunshine, they're going to be short-lived, breezy, a scattering of rain, sleet, snow showers, and a high later today to 46. The weekend forecast is brighter. When can we get back to 60? All coming up during this half hour. Olivia?
Tim, thank you. Strong winds blew through parts of southern Kentucky Tuesday night. Trees toppled over, and in many cases, homes were the victims. The strong storms hit a part of Whitley County just outside of Corbin near Laurel Lake. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to people assessing the damage.
Whitley County Sheriff Bill Elliott was headed to the southern end of the county when he heard there was possible severe weather there.
I need to try to be available if needed, and my own neighborhood gets hit.
But not just his neighborhood, but more specifically his mother-in-law's home.
There's actually part of the rafters or truss or whatever you want to call it actually down through the ceiling, and the ceiling is collapsing inside.
I am going to guesstimate there's probably 20 houses that are going to be affected to some degree, and that's going to vary from shingles down to trees on houses and some that are destroyed.
Unlike some of the damage we saw in other places in Kentucky, local officials do not believe that this was caused by a tornado or tornadoes. Simply, they believe it was straight line winds.
Everything last night on Bee Creek was pointed in the same direction. There didn't appear to be any twisting.
You know, things like this do happen, and it's just, unfortunately, it was my turn, I guess, so.
Local officials say that it'll cost a lot to fix the damages, but there's been no one injured and no loss of life. In Whitley County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
The storms also knocked out power, but crews were having success restoring that power in the area. Governor Andy Beshear provided an update on where emergency officials are in calculating storm damage. The governor says straight line winds reached up to 110 miles an hour in some places. He says emergency management officials have already confirmed several tornadoes touched down, and they are evaluating the possibility of more. Governor Beshear also complimented Kentuckians on their efforts to prepare.
We didn't have as many people out in the first storm because people were paying attention. We did lose that one life. But in the second round where we saw those tornadoes, right now we don't have a single confirmed fatality from the second part. We had a lot of businesses, including state government, that let out early.
Governor Beshear says that person that died was in Campbell County. Yesterday, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman was also set to pay a visit to northeastern Kentucky. Coleman had planned on being in Boyd County to observe the damage that was caused by the severe weather Tuesday. Officials with Boyd County Emergency Management told us that wind gusts exceeded more than 100 miles per hour. They also told us their tower that stands above their emergency operations center was knocked over due to the winds. And yesterday, Governor Beshear vetoed House Bill 581, commonly known as the Filling Station Bill. The bill is sponsored by Representative Ken Upchurch of Monticello. It would have banned local governments from restricting gas stations in favor of electric charging stations. Governor Beshear has remained supportive of electric vehicles. Governor Beshear has signed Senate Bill 29 into law. The bill, sponsored by Southern Kentucky Senator Brandon Storm, seeks to safeguard folks by prohibiting the transfer of insurance policy rights and benefits to third parties for property and casualty insurance claims. One of the highlights is that the bill fully covers motor vehicle glass repairs without a deductible. The Kentucky Board of Education has chosen Lawrence County Superintendent Robbie Fletcher as the new education commissioner. But for the first time ever, under a new state law, the choice is subject to confirmation by the state Senate. Senate Republican floor leader Damon Thayer told our sister station recently he's likely a no vote for now, but is pursuable. Thayer says the Senate is doing a background check and reviewing Fletcher's qualifications. Fletcher has been the Lawrence County Schools Superintendent since 2014. The American Red Cross hosted a lunch and learn yesterday, sharing its mission and asking for help. The Eastern Kentucky chapter brought neighbors out to the Printery 2 in Prestonsburg, discussing the organization's efforts, fundraising programs, and volunteer needs. Executive Director Debbie Rayner says the organization is always working to help those in need, but having more trained volunteers ready to help would be a blessing.
People should want to give back to their community and volunteer so that we will have people in place and that we will have a workforce and that we'll be able to help those in need when they are in need.
You can find out how to volunteer on our website. Now on to some national news this morning. President Biden is teaming up with Senator Bernie Sanders to promote his administration's efforts to lower the cost of inhalers and other health care needs. Both men touted lower health care costs that came through the Democrats' sweeping climate, health care, and tax package President Biden signed into law in 2022. The president says no one should have to pay $35 a month for insulin.
Take insulin for people with diabetes. It costs $10 to make. If you add everything in terms of packaging and all the rest, you can argue maybe $12 total. And they're charged as much as $400 a month. Not anymore. Not anymore. Seniors with diabetes will only have to pay $35 a month from this point on.
This comes as the Biden re-election campaign works to contrast its health care agenda with that of Republican nominee Donald Trump. A new report by the Global Forecast Watch says tropical forest loss declined last year, but says other woodlands remain under tremendous pressure. The loss of primary forest in the tropics declined 9% last year compared to 2022. Still, the report indicates destruction remains stubbornly high in the southern hemisphere of Earth. Deforestation globally rose 3.2% in 2023, according to the report.
And this year we found really significant decreases in primary forest loss in Brazil and in Colombia. But unfortunately, those decreases weren't enough to actually reduce the overall rate of forest loss in the tropics. The decreases were counteracted by increases instead in countries like Bolivia, Nicaragua, and Laos.
Overall, tree cover loss increased 24% in all forests globally in 2022, mostly because of enormous wildfires in Canada. The Food and Drug Administration is signing off on a first prescription digital treatment for depression. It's a smartphone app for people who get a diagnosis of major depressive disorder. Rejoin will be prescription only and won't treat depression on its own, but rather is to be used in conjunction with medications. The 6-week program may stimulate the areas of the brain thought to be responsible for antidepressant effects. It will consist of a series of brain training exercises. But more research is needed, and these findings are just preliminary. When we return, struggling to save. A recent report shows Americans might be facing a daunting retirement crisis in the coming years.
Who wants to retire? Just keep working, right? In the meantime, Mother Nature keeps working, but in the wrong direction. Yeah, that yellow color there, indicative of some sleet. Yeah, we'll let you know when we can warm up and get back to where we should be for this time of the year. Your first alert 7-day forecast is coming up right after this.